Hi, so we're back again. We're going to now look at AI in action, okay? This is purely a demo. There's no slides in this one. So we're going to just switch over to the screen, okay? This, very briefly, for maybe somebody who doesn't know, this is Scan2X, which is our software. And it is about capture, okay? But the whole point is it's not just capture. The idea is that whatever type of documents you get, whether they're digital, and as we said, nowadays you get more and more documents digital first or digital only, but digital or physical documents, you will capture them and you will use them in a business process. Okay, so the idea is Scan2X will make sure that you examine the document, you interpret the document, you understand the document, but then you enforce the user to follow a business process. Okay, I always say nobody gets a document and scans it for fun. At least no one I know, all right? Most people scan it because they want to get rid of it. They want to use that document, okay? So the idea is with Scan2X, you give people a button, they press a button, and it does most of the work for them, and then just asks them questions so that it can finish the job, okay? So we go from capture, process, augment, add value to that document, and then save it in the final destination. Okay? Also, we believe users should be guided and not asked questions about process. Process is decided by the business, not decided by users. Users have to follow process. So I will never ask this system, will never ask a user, how should I scan, where should I save? All it will do is ask him questions about the actual document. Now, as we mentioned before, with all the case studies, a lot of the stuff we discussed doesn't need AI. So there's a lot of stuff inside Scan2X which doesn't need AI. But for today, we're going to concentrate on how AI can add to that process. Okay? So I've got a few use cases where I'm going to show how the AI can be put together. And then I'll finish off with what sort of AI we're using as building blocks in those, okay? So I'm going to start off with the first one, and the first one is a nice handwriting demo. So I dragged in a couple of handwriting samples. These are challenging handwriting samples. We're not, I mean, I know my handwriting would be worse, probably, but this is old documents, okay? They're old documents. They're actually scans of actual physically very old documents, which are in foreign languages. So it's French and Italian, I believe. And what we are asking the system to do is read it, find the date on the document, interpret the full text, and translate the full text to English, and give me a summary. And this is all in one click. Okay? So if I go over here, you'll see, okay, well it should do. If I go and hover, there you see that's the full text in Italian. Okay? And then underneath that, you have all of it translated, and underneath you have everything as a summary. Now, the fact that I'm reading handwriting at all is something which we can do now with AI. Before this, with normal OCR, we used to tell you forget it, or we tell you no. But if you write caps inside the form in the boxes, we'll get it 70% of the time. All right. Now I tell you, he will beat you in reading. Okay? Well, at least he'll beat me, but maybe because I'm old and my eyesight is a bit shit. But he reads definitely better than I do when it comes to reading handwriting. Also, he can read foreign languages, even ones I can't. He translates them, and he gives you a summary. Now, the summary is very, very interesting. I believe the summary is one of the main things to keep in mind. I'm showing you one-pagers. Imagine these were 50, 60, 100 pages. But I've got a summary at the end of that. And that summary can be searchable. It could be sent to someone as an email. Look, we've just archived this document. This is the summary. What do you want to do? I don't have to go, get that document, read it, interpret it. I can action based upon the summary. And this works in different languages. Okay, so this is where the AI part of life comes in. I can read a document which is very difficult to read. I can read it in different languages. This is French, which I don't understand. He's going to translate it and give me a summary. This could all be saved, and therefore it could go into your next process. It's simple. It's a one-click event. Okay, so be aware, this is what we meant by AI adding and augmenting. It allows you to deal with documents in ways you would never have dreamed of before. Well, you might have dreamed of it, but you wouldn't be able to. But as I promised you in the keynote, nothing we mentioned there is not possible today. It's all possible today. It's just a matter of putting it all together. And remember, this is not giving someone ChatGPT and telling him you can play with the documents and upload what you want and do what you want. We're not opening the AI floodgates. We are giving very specific AI connectivity. That button will do one job, and he can only get AI by doing that. It allows you to be in control of your initial phases into AI. Okay, which again, as we mentioned before, is an important first step. If I go to the next one, I'm going to go and do document sorter. I've got 4 different types of documents. Now we've had document sorting. Yes, question?
Has there been an element of teaching to arrive to
Nope, none. Imagine those documents were given the first time. Okay, we are using Azure models. Okay, so we're using the Microsoft AI engines, and then we're using our systems to go through and leverage those. So your advantage for you is twofold. The Microsoft engines are always being updated, so it grows with you, 1. Number 2, we're not using your information. It's going to a standard platform and is deleted. It's not used by them for learning either. So you've got that guarantee. It's used and discarded. Okay? So that's the two-sided advantage. Here, I'm doing 2 things. I'm doing categorization, which is learning, checking, is this document what? Based upon knowing what document that is, it then does different things. So if it's an airway bill, it collects this information. If it's an invoice, it would collect different information. So the first thing that this is doing is it's first saying, what document are you? Now, as anybody who's tried to do this before will realize, see, these are the document types we've enabled for the system, okay? Teaching the normal system to decide which type of document before was quite challenging. You had to have examples of all the types of documents. In this case, you don't, because he is using his AI interpretation. He can understand the document like we can. So if I give him a new airway bill, and we all know airway bills, widely different in format. They're usually also in really bad condition because they'll have stamps on them, they'll be crumpled up, they'll be folded over, all right? All of those things add to the difficulty. But the AI will be able to read those anyway. And it can read information underneath the stamp, which again, with normal OCR, doesn't work. The minute you have a stamp on it, it can't read it. With AI, it can, because it can see the different shades and the different colors. So here, this one, because it's an airway bill, it's saying, right, where's it going? Where's it coming from? Who's the shipper? If I go and look, instead of at that, I go and look at the next one, which is, can't read until it gets bigger, all right, which is a bill of lading. It's asking for different information. And if it's an invoice, yet again, different information. And notice, it gets all the stuff. It gets the line items, the totals, all of this information. And then because it's categorized, I can say, send the airway bills here, send the bills of lading there, and invoices, send them off for approval. so I can route. Now, most of the stuff I'm saying we could already do in Scan2X, but you had to teach it. What is a bill of lading? What is this? What is that? It would have to be taught. Templates, if they're very different, it wouldn't realize. You'd have to do another example. So it was time consuming in administration. But now what we're doing is we're leveraging the AI and then keeping all the standard stuff we're underneath about routing and different metadata, whatever, still in place. And if you have documents which you use regularly, which are standard, those you make a template for and don't use AI. Why? Because AI costs money. You pay per page because you're asking the engine to do the work for you. So what we suggest is when you have standardized documents, internal, big suppliers who send you a lot, those use the templates which we had before, because that will charge you nothing. And then for the more difficult stuff, use the AI. Layers on top of each other, all right? No need to make everything with AI, though you can, if you want to save the money of the ongoing. Interpretation of claim forms. All right, so these are insurance claims, okay? Again, I've uploaded a few examples, okay? I promise I'm going to use a scanner at some point, otherwise probably someone from hardware will come and kill me, okay? But promise it will be the last one, okay? But the difference is, whether I get them physical or digital, no difference. Again, I have handwriting on these. Okay, a lot of the claim forms, that's how they come up, all right? Important thing to keep in mind, it's not only looking at the handwriting. There's going to be stuff on these, which I'll see at some point, which are little diagrams. Remember, these are motor claims, yeah? You've got where the car hit the other car, and I have a little X and blood. No, you don't have blood, but you know what I mean. You have little diagrams, okay? Now, once it's finished doing all of this, we've actually told it, because this one is using what we call NLQ, which is using like a ChatGPT or Copilot sort of programming interface. And we go in and say, look, you are analyzing claim documents, and you need to interpret the text and the sketches and give me the information. So we've given it background to understand. And once it knows that, it knows what it's looking for. So if I find one which has, so it's reading all the handwriting, again, and now we've got so blasé about reading handwriting, we don't even go, oh, wow, but technically that is a wow, because we wouldn't be able to do it before, okay? But also, if you go over here, there's going to be a description here, all right, of what that diagram is and where the damage is, okay? So just like we had a summary before, now we're going to have something about the sketch. See? Accident sketch. So it's going to describe for me what that actually is. Okay? So the driver vehicle impacted third-party vehicle from the rear, driver vehicle damage at the... So it's telling me what that is. Now, I didn't tell him that. It's not written on the document. Right? That is something that it interpreted once we explained what it was, and he continues to work on it. Okay, so in each of these, it's giving you that information. Now, this is what we meant when we said augmentation. You're adding value, you're adding stuff to the thing, which I, as an end user, don't have to go and do. I can validate, but if I've got all this information, when I start the business process, I can actually start to have rules based upon the sketch. Sketch is missing, sketch contradicts. I can check this stuff. Okay? So this sort of thing is great, and you'd be surprised how many areas of your business this can help and impact. Okay? So it's a great tool which you can use. All right? As promised, last one of my case studies, Nash. I promised to use the scanner. There we go. It's using the scanner. Okay? Is it awake? Yes. You can do it. There we go. So this is a legal document, okay? We are doing 3 things here, all right? Number 1, we're doing automatic redaction of sensitive information. Number two, we're using AI to highlight parts of the document that we think the end user should be looking at. Okay, that could be fixed information, or it could be specific types of information. Number three, we're also interpreting it as a legal document. So we said, what is the case? Where was the hearing? Where was the judgment? So it's looking for that. All right. It'll ask me for a file name if I was going to save it, but I don't want to waste time on do that. But also, I can go in and say, that was interesting, but... And as you can see, it's highlighted. And this is why I was very careful to use the scan for this one. Because I wanted to show you, I promise I didn't highlight it before, you see? You can come and check, okay? So this is all highlighted by the AI. And what you can now do is you can go and say, that's the bit I was worried about, okay? So this is something I didn't want to teach it. I wanted it to tell me. As I click on redact, I go and say, right, this is the bit I want to get rid of. So I highlight that, and I redact. I can apply that. I can then go and find the next piece, which I want to do, highlight that, and redact another piece. So I've got three types of redaction in play here. I've got redaction, which actually hides. I've got redaction, which I can do myself and change. All right? And I've also got redaction, which could be coming from the AI, which in this case we're using highlighting. Okay? So GDPR, we all know, is there. Being able to store and use data and share it carefully is important. And that's why you need to be able to have the bit where I can redact manually. Because he might have said, I'm going to highlight all the names, but you know who you're sending it to. So if I'm sending it to Steve, I don't redact Steve's name and details. I have to redact the other guys. But it'll highlight for me and help me to find the right information. And I can then redact just those pieces. Okay? So, those are the cases that I wanted to show. Tell me, Steve, we still have time. And you never finish early, so you know more's coming, okay? All right. So what I wanted to show now is how we built those. Now, this is not a technical session. I'm not going to go into the detail of how to build any of those buttons or what there is behind them. But I want to show generally what the sort of tools you have. So we give you three different types of AI tools. Okay. Number one, standard document types. So that's invoices, receipts, identification documents, which would be passports, IDs, driving licenses, stuff like that. Business cards and legal contracts. So legal stuff it understands. So those 5 types of documents, they're out of the box. All you do is you say, I want a new button, I want to do legal, you just choose contracts, and just tell it where to save. It's done. There's no setup. These are the ones which are using the standards. We give you everything. So it's invoicing. You don't have to configure anything. You just give it an invoice from any country, anywhere in the world, and it'll give you all the information that you want. But so far we only have 5 types which are standardized. So how do you do all the other stuff? Remember, I showed you handwritten samples. I showed you claim forms. I showed you bills of lading, airway bills. All of those are built using the tools. So you have level 1 tools, all right, which are, give me all your tables that you find. Give me all your labels. Labels are for standard documents. Every time, if you find the invoice number, then give me the value next to it, and I'll have a field saying invoice number, value. Date, value. Total value, table, boom. So it'll give you all the information labeled according to what it found. The third type of tool of this sort of standard level is advanced OCR. That is for non-formed documents, which it just wants to go and get everything it can find. But that can be any type of document you like, and it'll give you all the information, handwritten, scribbles, you name it. Okay? So those 3 allow you to build a lot of stuff building on the standard. The one I use the most in reality is this, the labels, because it gives you those 2 values and you can do magic with those, you can mix them up. And even if they're different types of documents, we give you a way in the back end to say when it says invoice number in this one, it'll be invnum in that one, and it'll be something else. And you can merge them so it'll learn. The last one we have is the coolest one, which is using natural language query, which is the way of using like a ChatGPT or Copilot type of thing. But as I promised, we're hiding that. The end user can't do anything. The administrator would go in and he describes to ChatGPT. Well, it's not ChatGPT, but use the same type of idea. And you say, look, you are analyzing claim documents. I'd like you to read the metadata, maybe handwriting, maybe not. Put it into these fields, but also give me a summary, give me a description of what the diagram is, give me all of this information, okay? So based upon all of that information, I can describe what I want and get a standardized output, a standardized result set. Okay, so that tool, together with all of these, make it really simple to do. Okay, so if I have just a quick, so this, for example, is an electricity bill. Okay, so using labels, he doesn't know what he's looking at, so he's just going to give me all of the bits related to it. So it's going through and analyzing. And I gave him no context. So this is the first time it's seeing that document. And it says, right, I found account name, and I put first name, last name, see it's sitting there. I found billing date, I found billing period, previous statement, and it goes through and it gives me all the information. Now I can then choose to use that in whichever way that I want. I can map it to a table, to a database, to therefore, I can send it on to something else. No issues. I can even rename these at a later stage. Okay? Obviously, though, if every single one I put in there would have to come up with a different set of labels. I'm going to go back to the labels, and I'm going to choose a different one. So this is the airway bills. Now before, remember, we interpreted the airway bills using the natural language query, okay? Why is that important? Because when we did it like that, it understood what it was looking at, okay? When we're using it with the labels instead, you see, it's just going to give me all the information. Now, I'm still going to get the information, okay? But it's only going to use the definition I have here. You see, so it says to. It doesn't know that that's a destination airport or the airport it's coming from. Okay? So the ability to change this into giving you more detailed and better information is what you do with fixing it. Okay? So this is what we wanted to show. We wanted to show you the different types of things you can do with the AI. As we mentioned before, these are going to be stuff you put on top of other parts of your digital transformation, but they add to the value. I press the button twice. There you go. I got it too excited. Let me instead do this. Let's see if it'll let me. There we go. So I managed to kill it. No. Well, I'm afraid. Let's see if it lets me. No. Okay, so no. I've destroyed it. Apologies. So let me just try and show you what I did before instead.